Earlier this week, San Francisco 49ers linebacker Fred Warner reclaimed the title as the NFL's APY King at the off-ball linebacker position. Who's got next at their respective position across the NFL? I'm glad you asked. Kyle Krabs with A to Z Sports, and the San Francisco 49ers for the second time this past week made waves with a contract extension after agreeing to a not record-setting contract deal with Brock Purdy. The 49ers agreed to terms on a contract extension with linebacker Fred Warner that placed him back in front of Baltimore Ravens linebacker Roquan Smith for the highest paid linebacker in football. So now, in an offseason in which we've seen Myles Garrett become the highest paid edge rusher in football, and Ja'Marr Chase become the highest paid wide receiver in football, and Derek Stingley Jr. become the highest paid cornerback in football, now seeing Fred Warner take the title at linebacker, the question begs to be asked, who's got next? And most people will probably point to Dallas Cowboys linebacker / edge rusher Micah Parsons. But here's the inconvenient truth about the Dallas Cowboys these days. They're not quite as quick on the draw as they need to be when getting these supersized contracts done. That's how they ended up paying more for CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, who got $60 million per season on average with his new deal signed last fall. And multiple quarterback contracts have been done since, including Buffalo's Josh Allen. None of them touched $60 million per season. So I don't think Micah Parsons is even the most likely Dallas Cowboy to be the next market reset that exists. I think you can look at Tyler Smith at offensive guard and also Brandon Aubrey at kicker as guys that are getting ready to enter into negotiation windows. Aubrey in a contract year. He hits absolute bombs for Dallas. They hit the 50-yard line. They're in scoring territory. He's almost automatic on these deep kicks. Aubrey's the best kicker in football. That price point, $6.4 million per season on average. Would not be surprised to see the Cowboys come to terms on a market reset at the kicker position. But you're not here for kicker content, let's be honest. So let's talk about Tyler Smith. Dallas, having Zach Martin come off the books with retirement, is probably going to open some more wiggle room for the Cowboys to properly prioritize getting a sturdy long-term contract in place for Tyler Smith, who's been a first-round success story for the Dallas Cowboys. When you look at offensive guard contracts, Kansas City Chiefs' Trey Smith is technically the guard APY king, but he's playing on the franchise tag. And the way that the collective bargaining agreement is currently situated, all offensive line salaries are pulling together. So that means the $28 million plus per year that Penei Sewell and Tristan Wirfs are getting to be franchise left tackles and franchise right tackles, those salaries are pooling into those guard contracts, and it's making the franchise tag even more expensive. When you look at a guy on a multi-year contract at the guard position, your APY king is Philadelphia's Landon Dickerson at $21 million per season. Thanks to the retirement of Zach Martin, I think Tyler Smith is probably more likely to get that market reset contract sooner than Micah Parsons, despite how good and dominant Parsons can be. But this conversation is not just focused on kickers and offensive guards. Sauce Gardner might have something to say about this when it's all said and done as well. But here's why I wouldn't pick Sauce Gardner to be the next market reset. The New York Jets are in the midst of a transition. They've made a new hire at head coach. They've made a new hire at general manager. Sauce Gardner, of course, from the previous regime. New York, how likely are they to make that kind of investment, especially when you consider Derek Stingley Jr.'s contract at $25 million per season is $5 million per year higher than the next contract on the list. Sauce might need a little bit of sweat equity with that current regime in order to be given the skip the line and avoid being placed between the $30 and $25 million that exist as annual average salaries for the top two names in the quarterback market. Defensive back, I do think, has a strong case to be made, though, when you add Kyle Hamilton, the safety from the Baltimore Ravens, to the mix. That was another market reset that we just saw get done this offseason when the Detroit Lions extended Kirby Joseph, and that was at a price point of $21.5 million per season. There's two ways you get paid as a safety in the NFL. You take the football away, or you do everything. He's the guy who has an incredible ability to turn the ball over, create interceptions. Kyle Hamilton's the guy that does everything, where he can line up deep, he can line up in the slot, he can line up on the second level, he can blitz and pressure, he can play tight ends man-to-man, he can fit the run, he tackles incredibly well. He's a rare size athlete to play in the secondary, and he does everything. At $21.5 million per season, I would not be surprised in the slightest to find out that Kyle Hamilton becomes the new safety APY king. He isn't the only Baltimore Raven on my list either. Tyler Linderbaum at center, I think, is another strong candidate when you consider the fact that that is $18 million per season, and Baltimore bypassed the fifth-year option. Why would they do that? If they like Tyler Linderbaum, for the same reason why the franchise tag doesn't necessarily count for the highest contract. Offensive tackle salaries go into the fifth-year option price point for interior offensive linemen. With Baltimore bypassing the fifth-year option for Tyler Linderbaum, there's more urgency to get that contract done sooner rather than later. And at $18 million per season, I think it's a very easily digestible price point for Baltimore to come to terms on a long-term contract extension that would reset the market at the center position.